There's a kind of silence in Los Angeles that isn't natural. It doesn't come from peace, it comes from planning. Nicole woke because the darkness changed color, not sound, not a vibration, not a nightmare, just a thin wash of pale light sliding across the ceiling, like someone outside had turned the night a shade lighter. For a few seconds, her brain tried to file it under automatic garden lights and move on. Then she saw the line at the edge of the curtains, a slow, deliberate sweep. A beam, someone was scanning the house. Keith slept beside her, heavy and still. He'd always had that kind of sleep, the kind you earn after years of living fast and then forcing your body to forget it ever did. Nicole used to think it was touring, time zones, exhaustion. In the last year, she'd started to notice a pattern. On certain nights, he slept like a man taking cover. She slid out of bed, pulled on a robe, and moved through the hall with the careful quiet of someone who has spent half a lifetime on sets where every footstep can ruin a take. The house was calm, but it wasn't calm in the normal way. The air felt arranged, as if it had been waiting. She reached the kitchen and stopped. On the marble island sat a folder she hadn't seen before, thick, gray, the kind used for contracts and court filings. No logo, no letterhead, no polite sticky note, just her name on the top in neat, printed capitals. Nicole. She didn't touch it at first. She listened. The beam outside passed again. This time it caught the edge of the pool and turned the water into a sheet of moving silver. It continued across the hedges, the glass doors, the back wall, slow, patient, professional. Nicole's phone was on the counter, face down. She flipped it over. No missed calls, no alerts, no security notification. That was wrong. They had a system, a good one, a system that never missed a raccoon, let alone a person. She picked up the folder with 2 fingers, as if it could leave residue. Inside were a few pages, clipped. The first page was not a contract. It was a photograph, a candid shot taken from a distance, Keith exiting a building at night, hood up, head down. The image was grainy, but the posture was unmistakable. Under the photo, a date and time. Under that, an address. Nicole didn't recognize the building. She recognized the feeling. Her throat tightened, not from fear exactly, but from the sudden awareness that someone had been watching them, close enough to collect the details that matter. The second page was a single paragraph. We prefer quiet solutions. We prefer private families. We prefer your continued cooperation. There was no signature, no company name, just a line at the bottom, like a polite instruction. Please review the attached and speak with your husband by 9 a.m. Nicole turned the page. That's where the contract began. It was written in clean legal English, expensive in its restraint. The terms were simple on the surface, which is how dangerous terms are always written. Non-disclosure, perpetual. Non-disparagement, broad. Performance obligations, vague enough to be anything. Financial penalties that escalated like a staircase. Arbitration clauses that quietly moved every dispute into a room with no windows. At the top of the final page, highlighted a single line. This agreement supersedes all prior understandings. Nicole stared at that sentence until it felt like the paper was staring back. Supersedes. So there had been a prior understanding, an older contract, one she'd never seen, one Keith had never mentioned. She heard a soft sound behind her. Not a footstep, a shift of weight. Nicole turned. Keith stood at the edge of the kitchen, barefoot, blinking against the light like he'd walked into a scene already in progress. His face was soft with sleep, but his eyes went straight to the folder in her hands, and the softness drained away. He didn't ask, "What is that?" He didn't say, "Why are you up?" He just exhaled once, slow, like a man who has been caught by something he has been running from for years. "Where did you get that?" he asked. "It was on the counter," Nicole said. "Keith, what is this?" He crossed the room too quickly, then stopped himself, like he'd remembered he wasn't allowed to look frantic. His hands hovered over the folder, as if touching it might trigger something. "I don't know," he said, but his voice didn't match the words. "It's not for you." Nicole kept her grip on the pages. "It has my name on it." Keith's jaw tightened. "They shouldn't have done that." "They." Nicole looked at him carefully, as if she was seeing new seams in an old garment. "Who are they?" Keith didn't answer fast enough. That was the answer. Outside, the scanning beam passed again. This time, it lingered on the kitchen windows, bright enough to throw their shadows onto the floor. For a second, Nicole saw them as silhouettes, a woman holding paperwork, a man poised between confession and containment. Keith moved toward the window and peered through a gap in the curtains. His shoulders went rigid. "They're here," he said. Nicole's heartbeat became loud in her ears. "What does that mean?" Keith turned back to her. His expression was not panic. It was calculation, the kind you have when you've done this before. "Nick," he said, "I need you to do exactly what I say for the next 5 minutes." Nicole didn't move. "No, you don't get to manage me right now. Tell me what's happening." Keith swallowed. His eyes flicked to the contract again, to the highlighted line, to the photo. Then he said quietly, like it pained him to admit it out loud, "This isn't new. It's just overdue." Nicole felt cold spread through her chest. Overdue for what? Keith looked past her toward the hallway, as if the house itself might be listening. "For them to collect," he said. A sharp knock hit the front door. Not polite, not aggressive, precise. 3 taps, evenly spaced, like a code someone expects to be answered. Nicole flinched despite herself. Keith didn't. He stepped closer to her, lowered his voice to a near whisper. "Whatever you do," he said, "don't sign anything." Nicole stared at him. "Keith, I'm not signing a contract I didn't ask for." "That's not what I mean. I mean, don't sign anything they put in front of you. Not with your hand, not with your voice, not with your presence. They're not just after paper." Another knock, same rhythm, same patience. Nicole held the folder tighter. Then what are they after? Keith's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw the thing beneath the practiced calm. Fear, but not for himself, for her. "They're after the version of me you married, because it was never supposed to last." Keith opened the door before the third knock could land. 2 men stood on the other side, not security, not police, not anything that wore a uniform. They looked like consultants, which in Los Angeles is often worse. Neutral suits, neutral faces. The kind of men you wouldn't remember 10 minutes later unless you were trained to. "Good morning," the taller one said. "Sorry to arrive so early." His eyes went straight to Nicole. "That's my wife," Keith said flatly. "Of course," the man replied, already smiling. "That's precisely why we're here." Nicole felt the smile register as an insult, calm, practiced, unearned. "You can't just walk into our home," she said. The second man spoke this time, voice softer, almost apologetic. "We didn't walk in, we knocked." Keith stepped slightly in front of her without touching her, an old instinct, protective but also strategic. "What do you want?" he asked. The first man glanced down at his watch. "Efficiency. We prefer to keep these conversations under 10 minutes. Nicole laughed once, sharp. "Then you came to the wrong house." The man's smile didn't fade. "You've already read the materials," he said, nodding toward the folder in her hands. "That usually accelerates things." Nicole tightened her grip. "I haven't agreed to anything. No one's asking you to, yet." Keith's jaw clenched. "Say what you came to say and leave." The man tilted his head, studying Keith with a familiarity that made Nicole's skin crawl. "You always were impatient near the end." Keith didn't react, but Nicole saw his fingers curl slightly at his side. The second man stepped forward and produced a slim tablet. He didn't turn it toward them. "This contract," he said, "is not an introduction. It's a renewal." Nicole felt something click into place. Renewal of what? Keith closed his eyes for half a second. The first man answered, "Of stability." Nicole scoffed. "You call this stability?" "We do, because it worked." Keith opened his eyes. "At what cost?" The man met his gaze evenly. "At the cost you agreed to." Nicole turned on Keith. "You agreed to this?" Keith didn't look at her. "Not this version." The men exchanged a glance, brief and unreadable. "There was an earlier framework," the second man said. "Less formal, less inclusive." "Inclusive?" Nicole repeated. "Yes," the first man said. "You weren't part of the picture back then." Nicole felt the implication land like a hand on her back, pushing. "So now I'm leverage?" "No," the man replied. "Now you're assurance." Keith snapped. "You said you'd never involve my family." "And we didn't," the man said smoothly, "until the risk profile changed." Nicole's voice went very quiet. "What risk?" The man finally stopped smiling. "You." Silence dropped hard and sudden. Nicole stared at him. "Explain." The second man took over, voice measured. "Your public image is resilient, independent. You ask questions. You don't panic. That's not a crime." "No," he agreed, "but it's inconvenient." Keith stepped forward. "You're done. Get out." The first man raised a hand, not threatening, just halting. "We haven't finished." He finally turned the tablet toward them. On the screen, headlines, dates, internal memos, carefully curated. Some familiar, some not. Projects Keith had almost done but hadn't. Tours that had been announced then quietly canceled. A charity initiative that never launched. "You thought these were choices," Keith said to the man. "They were permissions." Nicole's stomach twisted. "You controlled his career?" "We stabilized it," the correct said. "We took a volatile asset and made it reliable." Keith's voice was tight. "You owned me." The man shrugged. "Temporarily." Nicole looked at the screen again, then back at them. "And now?" "And now," the second man said, "the asset wants to age out." Keith laughed, bitter. "I'm not a machine." "No," the man replied. "You're a brand with dependencies." Nicole felt heat rise behind her eyes, but her voice stayed level. "So what happens if we refuse?" The first man considered her. "Then the older agreements resurface." Keith stiffened. Nicole caught it immediately. "What older agreements?" The man smiled again, thin this time. "The kind that don't look good in daylight." Keith shook his head. "Those were sealed." "Sealed is not destroyed, and destruction is expensive." Nicole understood then. Not scandal, not headlines, reclassification. They weren't threatening to expose lies. They were threatening to change the story so that the truth wouldn't matter. Keith spoke quietly. "What do you want?" The men relaxed slightly, the question they'd been waiting for. "Continuation," the first man said. "One final cycle, limited visibility,
No surprises, no independent disclosures. Nicole cut in. And me? The man met her gaze. We'd prefer you remain supportive. Define supportive, Nicole said. The second man answered. Silent. Keith turned to her. Nick. She raised a hand. No, I want to hear this. The man nodded. You don't need to lie. You don't need to defend. You simply don't contradict. Nicole smiled, slow and cold. You've mistaken me for someone else. The man studied her for a long moment. Then he sighed, almost regretful. That's what we were afraid of. He tapped the tablet once. Then this conversation ends here, he said. You'll have until tomorrow morning. Until what? Nicole asked. Until you decide whether you want the comfortable version of your life or the honest one. Keith stepped forward again. Get out. The men complied. No argument, no rush. At the door, the first man paused. One last thing. He looked at Nicole. Truth is powerful, he said, but only when someone is willing to survive it. The door closed. The house felt different immediately. Too large, too exposed. Nicole turned to Keith. Start talking. Keith sank into a chair like his bones had finally given up. He thought it was over, he said. I thought if I played along long enough, they'd let me go. Nicole sat across from him. And did they? Keith shook his head slowly. They never do. Nicole looked at the folder, the contract, the careful language. Then she closed it. No, she said. Keith looked up. No what? No renewal, no silence, no quiet ending. He stared at her, fear and relief colliding. They'll destroy me. Nicole leaned forward. Then we stop letting them control the timing. Keith's voice dropped. How? Nicole met his eyes, steady. We make noise first, she said, the kind they can't edit. They didn't sleep. That wasn't a decision, it was a consequence. Nicole sat at the dining table with the folder spread open again, this time not reading it as a threat, but as evidence. Keith moved through the house in slow, restless loops, stopping occasionally as if he were about to say something, then thinking better of it. Finally, just before dawn, he spoke. There's a recording, he said. Nicole looked up. Of what? Of the first agreement, not the paperwork, the conversation. Nicole felt her pulse sharpen. You recorded them? He shook his head. I recorded myself right after. She waited. I used to do that, he said. When I was trying to stay clean, I'd talk into a recorder. What I saw, what scared me, what I agreed to, and why. Nicole stood slowly. Where is it? Keith hesitated. That's the problem. The sky outside was just starting to lighten when they got in the car. No security, no calls, no notifications. Nicole left her phone behind on purpose. The house, she knew, would not be empty anymore. If not physically, then digitally. They drove north. Quiet roads, no music. Keith gave directions without explanation. When they finally stopped, it was in front of a storage facility that looked aggressively ordinary. Beige walls, cameras in plain sight, fluorescent lighting that made everything feel temporary. Keith unlocked the unit with hands that shook just enough to notice. Inside, boxes, old tour gear, cases labeled with dates instead of names, a past that had been packed up and hidden, not discarded. He pulled out a small, hard case and opened it. Inside was a digital recorder, scuffed, outdated. Nicole picked it up like it might bite. Are you sure? She asked. Keith nodded. It's worse than the tape they have. because it's me. They sat on the concrete floor. Keith pressed play. The voice that came out was his, but younger, unsteady, honest in the way people only are when they think no one else will ever hear them. They said this is the only way. They said if I don't agree, they'll make sure I'm not employable, not canceled, just gone. A pause, a breath. I don't trust them. I don't trust myself, but I don't see another door. Nicole felt tears rise, not because of what was said, but because of how alone it sounded. They want silence. They want control. They want time. Another pause. If anyone ever hears this, it means the deal failed. The recording ended. Neither of them moved. Nicole finally spoke. They can't spin this. Keith shook his head slowly. They won't try. What will they do? They'll discredit me, he said. They'll say it's relapse talk.
Paranoia. They'll frame it as instability. Nicole stood. Then we don't release it alone. She took out a notebook from her bag. Not legal stationery, just paper. We do this like an investigation, she said. Documents, timelines, third parties. We don't accuse, we show. Keith looked at her like he was afraid to hope. They'll fight. Yes, Nicole replied, but they'll fight in daylight. The story didn't break, it assembled. Lawyers were consulted quietly, journalists with reputations for patience, not virality, experts who understood contracts designed to look voluntary while functioning as cages. Every piece corroborated another, not explosive, precise. When it finally went public, there was no dramatic reveal. No headline screamed betrayal. Instead, there were questions. Why were these clauses legal? Why were these careers so fragile behind the scenes? Why did so many people recognize the pattern without ever naming it? Keith didn't do interviews at first. Nicole did one. She didn't cry. She didn't defend. She didn't perform outrage. She said one thing clearly. This isn't about a scandal. It's about consent that expires when fear is removed. The response was uneven, support mixed with skepticism, industry silence that spoke louder than denial. Contracts were quietly revised elsewhere, projects stalled. A few executives retired for personal reasons. Nothing dramatic, nothing clean. Keith lost work. Then slowly, he gained something else, control. Months later, he played a small venue under a different billing. No cameras, no narrative. Nicole sat in the back and listened. The songs were rough, unpolished, real in a way that didn't ask permission. When someone later asked her if the truth had been worth the damage, she answered without pause. The damage was already there, she said. We just stopped pretending it was invisible. They went home that night to a house that felt quieter than it ever had. Not controlled, just honest. And that, Nicole thought, was the most expensive thing they had ever chosen.